Hello and welcome to the Marketing Times Analytics podcast. I'm your host, Alex Safranis, and today I'm on with Jeff Steinka. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex. My name is Jeff. I am a agency owner, music festival marketing, analytics nerd. Find myself sitting halfway between artist and full-on geek when it comes to this type of work. Our firm oversees about 50 music festivals nationwide here in the US. We do some international shows and everything ranging from hip-hop music to reggaeton to dance music. Some of our partners that we work with, Live Nation, Insomniac, Penske, everything from smaller shows to bigger corporate arrangements.
Wow. So tell us how you started your agency. How did it grow?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually. About 4.5 years ago, if you guys remember, the COVID bell had just rung. And my friend and I started it just as a passion project. We always had full-time jobs. One of our first deals was working with Twitch on a live stream showcase for an artist named Blondish. The lockdowns happened and everything really ramped up from there. During the pandemic, I think I worked harder than I ever have by necessity. The agency has always just been about I hire a lot of my friends that are very smart, they're good people, work with cool people, work on exciting projects for us, and try to keep a high vibe. The company is called Compatible LA. So yeah, a lot of it is about compatibility, like working with people that you enjoy spending time with and being creative with and driving these visions forward.
Yeah, so can you walk us through exactly what your agency does in the context of a music festival?
For sure. Yeah, so there's a couple different components to it. There's the strategy side, which is more or less templatized at this point. You talk to a lot of different organizers and event producers, and from a marketing standpoint, you have your major beats that you'll see. There's a lineup announcement, there is salesy marketing messaging, you're explaining the brand, leveraging artists for content. All that stuff is pretty templatized. So we do paid advertising depending on the brand, all the usual players, Meta, Snapchat, TikTok, Google Display, Google Search. Sometimes we'll work with third-party programmatic, but really depends on the client and the location, to be honest. Then we do email and SMS supporting the full marketing funnel across the different components. One thing that we do that will vary based on the client's interest and also capacity is identity resolution and some really techie stuff on the analytics side. I think anyone who had to deal with iOS 14 was banging our head against the wall trying to figure out solutions for ID resolution and attribution. So we spend a lot of time on that as well. To answer your question succinctly, it's like marketing strategy that includes email, SMS, social, and then paid advertising with a analytics stack on top of it.
Got it. Okay, and when you're saying identity resolution, are you talking about capturing audiences in the upper funnel and retargeting them, and then as they get more interested, you're sending them lower funnel messaging?
Depends. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Doing contesting and anything to get first party data is definitely a huge part of strategy that we do. There's a difference between working with a brand that's launching for the first time versus someone that's been around for 15 years. I would highly recommend looking into email or messaging platforms that have an SDK that you can load on the website. Platforms support an SDK being installed on the website, and we actually do identity calls on the site based on local storage. If you've ever signed up for a newsletter or you've bought a ticket to a show with Live Nation, there's a good chance you could find yourself in the JavaScript. So we do ID resolution on visits based on local storage. We use a CDP to pass that back into our CRM, and then we deploy messaging based on what users are doing. So for a new brand, identity resolution for sure. If you couple that first party data with any type of campaign, we've seen like return on ad spend of 90x, like for big marketing beats. But then for like long-term brands, we have a big focus on developing that customer identity through a CDP or a high touch and deploying intelligent marketing messaging based on behavior.
What kind of behavior are you looking for in the music festival space? Is it like maybe somebody going on a particular like blog? Like, are you buying signals at an aggregate level, or is it when people are maybe reaching like a site and then they leave, like one of those triggers types of campaigns?
Yeah, so right now It's primarily B-roll data and web data. So, for example, if you were to go to one of our websites and we resolve your identity through the cookie or the local storage that we have, we're tracking page views, button clicks, initiating checkouts, add to carts, purchases, all through a CDP. So everything that we're tracking is like our immediate data sources, which could be like our own websites, our app, or on third party like ticketing platforms. All of this is done anonymously as far as the user data on the website. We're doing identity calls for an ID that we're matching on the back end to an actual person. It's primarily like our owned and operated data or immediate third parties like a ticketing provider or a Bands in Town or a Spotify where we have that arrangement set up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of repeat purchasers in the music festival space.
Yeah,
So is that also something that you factor in, is like the history of that particular customer with the brand or with any number of the brands?
yeah, absolutely. Generally speaking, we're trying to get a holistic view of who each customer is. And then you can get a little bit of information as far as like POS data, like what are they buying when they go to shows. Some of the hiccups that we run into when it comes to identity resolution on transactional data is parents buying tickets for their kids, friends buying tickets for their friends. And one way that we're working to overcome that is RFID wristbands, right? So in general, like Coachella is a good example. Like you have to register your wristband when you go into some of these shows, and RFID provides a tremendous amount of data. There's transactional data, there's geo location data, and then if you have their like name, email address, and phone number, you're really able to know who the attendee is versus mom in New York buying a ticket for her 20-year-old daughter at Coachella when she's at UCLA. So, yeah, that's how we work on resolving identity. A lot of the transactional data is hashed. So, there's a few things that we use to get as close as we can. But in general, you're only able to see the last four of a credit card and a expiration date. But yeah, we got it as close as we can get.
That's really interesting. So I'm curious, when to go back to the example of the mom buying the ticket for the daughter to Coachella, would you then want to target the daughter or the mom?
In an ideal world, that's when connected TV comes in, right? You drop them in the same house. But yeah, ideally, we would prefer to go direct to the consumer as far as like the attendee, but certain, I don't think there's anything wrong with, especially when it comes to these types of shows and you're dealing with the age spectrum of young adult, college student. Nothing wrong with having the mom do some Christmas conversation about Coachella at the end of the year.
Yeah. What about instead of a mom, if it's just a very social person that tends to get a lot of their friends to go to places, would you put them in a separate audience where you're willing to bid more for that person because they're almost like a local influencer to get other people to go to something?
Yeah, not only bid more, we do direct outreach to them. So we'll reach out to people where we see they're doing a lot of transactional purchases and have them as influencers, to your point. We do some type of ticketing exchange or work out some type of arrangement. The biggest way to know these people, by the way, at music festivals is the totems. So I don't know if you've ever been to a big festival, but there's people that carry the flags or the big sticks. Those are generally people that bring 20 to 30 friends with them, and they need that totem to find each other, right? It's a way to know who some of the more influential people in the crowd are. And we reward those people in general, tickets, content, all that stuff. And different companies have different affiliate programs too. So when you identify people that are influential in the space, you can offer them complimentary tickets or you can give them cash benefit based on GA4 data when you're using an affiliate link. So there's a lot of ways to go about it.
Can you say more about cash benefit data?
Yeah, for sure. So let's say you wanted to come to Burning Man and I was selling tickets and I gave you a unique link with a UTM parameter. It's basically like an affiliate deal. If you are able to sell 100 tickets and we have a 10% cash back to your code and the tickets are $1,000, that's 100 grand. And then 10% of that would be 10,000. So you make $10,000 to basically bring all of your friends with you to a show. And that's all trackable through a UTM link, for example. A lot of shows and events started with flyers and posters. It started with all those guys standing outside the club with the physical paper flyers. That's not dead. It's just been digitized. The whole culture has shifted into more of a digital space. The text message has turned into a DM on Instagram.
Do you work on maximizing lifetime value? I know you mentioned RFID tracking and tracking purchases within the establishment.
Mhm.
Do you seek to maximize that by targeting more people?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that you can generally go about it. So, depending on how defined the data set is that you're able to access, there are opportunities to evangelize attendees further with brands. So, if you know that someone, based on RFID, for example, showed up when doors opened and they left when doors closed, and they bought merch and they did a VIP upgrade and they have been there all 3 days the entire time, you could deploy messaging offering them a complimentary ticket to the next show. Or some of the brands that I work with have a private membership club where when you attend numerous festivals per year, you get access to this club where free drinks, secret shows from live bands or DJs, and we promote that as a way to drive further LTV for each of our customers, right? Having a loyalty or membership program really helps, but you have to have the processes in place to track those behaviors in the first place.
That's very interesting. So I'm curious, when you're doing targeting, are you doing holdout groups to measure incrementality in your marketing?
Nope. We're actually, so across all of the projects, we have different measurement models based on platform specific, right? And we've done some incrementality tests using, for example, but I have my qualms with advertising attribution in general. It's been a frontier that I was willing to die on for years after iOS 14, once I really realized what was happening. There's a couple ways we look at it. So with a CDP, you can actually get pretty close on the attribution level to understand the real purchase journey and how long it takes for a customer to convert and what those touch points really were. I think Google Analytics and some of these other tools solve about 40% of the problem, but because the data is anonymized, it's very hard to truly group it all together and get a clear look at it. There's a new platform that we're working with called Indicative. Particle acquired them, that has given us an environment to be able to test that type of work in. I am just hoping that we have enough quantitative data and identified profiles where measurement actually is something that I can look at and make conclusive decisions on in regards to big changes in the way we do our marketing campaigns. As for right now, we've done some MLM stuff with Meta. I just don't trust the advertising networks, any of them. So yeah,
Hmm.
we're working towards a model where we can. It's crazy if you even look at, so there's a tool that identifies the amount of bot traffic on programmatic and social. And it's crazy. It's 30% sometimes of just not real traffic. And I don't want to be like controversial. And we use it for our campaigns too. So that's one thing that we do for our clients is like, when we're running campaigns, we're very upfront and we're like, hey, the way we're targeting this particular interest group in this city seems to be getting like 20 to 30% of the traffic is, it's not real.
Hmm.
So we'll try to make adjustments in real time, but there's a lot of wasteful spend that goes into that. I'm sure you're familiar, like programmatic is one of the biggest culprits because there's so many bots on the internet. I don't think it's because of the advertiser. What I think it is like the websites have bots scraping the site and driving up the amount of users that are going to the website to make it more appealing.
No, that's great and very important to talk about. And I think it particularly affects you in the music space because there's reselling of tickets. And so
Yes.
the bots are trying to just grab tickets so that they can resell them. And I know there's recently been a trend of not allowing people to resell tickets, but only through certain platforms in certain approved ways.
That's a tricky
So
one.
I guess that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very tricky because it's public knowledge now that the government has taken some issue with a major ticketing platform, but they're one of the only companies that can safely create a distribution reselling market. You have StubHub and you have some other sites that are doing it, but if you can keep the tickets in the same ecosystem where users are able to confidently transfer a ticket within the same platform without it exchanging hands between different people, and it's automated, for sure. And I think that Live Nation is doing a great job. The Fred Again show that they had here in LA, there's 88,000 people in the queue, but it was the first time that I could tell that these companies were being very prescriptive about bots and throttling traffic, and I think they did a great job. Where there's been a lot of controversy in the past because bots are a real issue. So I'm just doing a call out on that because even though I waited 20 minutes to get a ticket, which I'm not used to, I was still really happy with the measures they put in place. I even got banned on one of my devices because I opened another window within the same browser and they thought I was a bot. Yeah, it is a big problem. There's like the whole Taylor Swift fiasco that happened where the White House got involved, and I think they're doing everything they can. It's almost like a battle of cybersecurity at that point where you have hackers and people running bot engines versus corporations that have data science teams that are meant to battle this. Where there's money, there's challenge, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, you're in a high demand space. Is it a very profitable space, the music event space? Because there's a lot of demand for it, but what about the operating costs? I know there's insurance and the venue rental and all of that. You have to pay the artists. At the end of the day, is it a strong business?
Yeah. So it definitely can be extremely lucrative, but for anyone listening that's I want to throw a music festival, I warn you, usually like 1 to 3 years, you're bleeding. Like I can't name names, but I've worked with a lot of first year festivals too, and I always try to manage expectations. Like unless you're Fire Festival, where you do marketing before product, it's very hard. The margins are not necessarily great for a lot of shows, and I think part of it is part of the promoter mindset. Like I have been throwing parties in LA for 12 years on my own. And I'll let you know, as the planner, the moment you break even before a show, you're like, how can I make it better? Because you're just investing into the business. It's almost like every event is its own little company, right? You spend 6 months working on it, you launch it, goes for 24 hours, and then you lick your wounds or you celebrate. Most companies keep pretty narrow margins because they're always thinking long term and trying to reinvest for the future. So if you're making 10 to 20% on a show, that's fantastic. That's really great. 10 to 20%, depending on the show, could be anywhere from $10 million to 100, right? So it just depends on the scale. Like, for example, Insomniac just did 500,000 people across 3 days in Las Vegas. Dollars. And that's the cool thing, man, is it also benefits the community. It's good for the culture. I think people, the reason I even do this in the first place is because, like, when I was 17, I went to a show. I saw Daft Punk in Las Vegas when I was in high school. I flew out, I snuck away from home, and I took a flight and I went inside. And I had this moment where I had my whole idea about what reality is shifted to understanding that you can make something special where there's a massive amount of people where their consciousness can change and be positive. It's a real inflection point. And I think that's really why I love it, is because people can feel comfortable in their own sexuality, their own identity. They can feel safe there. They can express themselves. You can enjoy art. And it's really one of the only things where you're selling a product that people come to. For example, you're buying something on Amazon or you're buying a dope hoodie on a website, it gets shipped to you and you receive something. This is really a convergent effort where you have people that go to a place to experience something together. So you have a few things going for you. You have the art, you have the community, and then you have the environment. And there are all these different tenets of what you're like promoting, and that feeds into the marketing. You need to think about how to really nurture every part of that, because some people go there for the music, but there's a lot of people that just go there to be around like-minded people and feel safe and be able to express themselves. So it's an interesting way to look at the marketing strategy for something like this.
I want you to ask yourself a question. How much of the data that your business collects is actually used to drive contextual marketing campaigns? The capabilities of the marketing industry are evolving rapidly, and that's great news for businesses. More data is becoming available at increasing levels of granularity, and that data can be used to create better marketing campaigns that better resonate with your key audiences and increase customer conversion rates. Marketing tactics are becoming more focused and contextual, which is bridging the gap between B2B and B2C marketing. At the end of the day, we're marketing to individuals, whether they're buying on behalf of a business or whether they're buying a product or service for their home. My name is Alex, and I'm an expert in data, analytics, and direct marketing. I've managed over $70 million in media spend, over $10 million in agency fees, and I have a proven track record in lowering cost per sale in direct marketing, digital media, and paid search campaigns. I use data and analytics to dive into campaign performance, identify growth opportunities, and action on those insights to deliver business results. I've worked at companies like IBM and DirecTV, where I've leveraged LTV analytics and customer insights to identify profitable groups of customers and drive demand amongst those customer groups. The secret is in de-averaging campaign and audience performance, understanding the components of profitability and tying that together with audience segmentation. So the question is, are you using the right data to maximize your marketing potential? Grab time with me to learn how you can get the most sales out of your marketing efforts. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, speaking of which, how's the creative typically built? Is it different creatives for different types of audiences that would attend? Are you using dynamic creative, maybe highlighting different artists that certain people would have a greater affinity to want to go see versus others?
Yeah, 100%. All of that. So artist-specific creative, targeting fans with genre-specific creative, targeting fans who have attended in prior years versus this year. Yeah, as prescriptive as we can get with targeting, we will go there. And what that looks like on the creative side is on Meta, for example. I'm sure people know this, but you can send out requests to pages and get access to advertise on their behalf, right? This is a big thing for us in the entertainment industry because we have 100 to 300 people performing, and now we're running ads from all of their pages to their fans with approved creative. So for any given show, you're looking at like minimum 300 pieces of content that are being created. So hitting behavioral, we'll call that genre specific, what type of music they like, the copy will reflect that, the visual will reflect that, the music will reflect that. Artist specific, behavior specific. So if they've attended multiple years, say thank you. And social or on YouTube, sometimes we'll run ads. It's like, thanks for coming this year. We want to let you know that we have discount tickets available for the following. So we definitely maximize the personalization. It's my biggest passion, with the CDP, with everything, is to deliver. Because when you focus on delivering experiences that are so remarkable and unique to each person, the marketing should reflect that. Like you throw events where it's the coolest thing someone's ever been to. What if your marketing was the most personal, exciting thing you've ever received? So that's the headspace that I take with it.
And if you get super personalized, does that at all make it difficult to optimize? Because you don't have just one hero and a challenger. You're talking like hundreds of heroes. How do you tweak it to figure out the best combination or the best format?
If we have an idea and there's 100 people in a data pool out of 200,000, it's not a good idea. At the top of the hierarchy, what I would say matters the most is delivering messages from artists that's pretty easy. Next is genre specific. Now, you can pay attention, like by excluding audiences and looking at overlap, you can really pay attention to what the actual audience category blend is. Because at a certain point, you can cannibalize one or the other. So what we like to do is like exclude audiences. If they like hip hop and house music, we'll exclude the other stages genres to make sure we're only talking to people that like the specific segment. I haven't really seen diminishing returns from that. I would say we can get it about as prescriptive as we want without cutting anything off. I mean, we can talk about attribution too, because that's a whole.
That's what I was going to ask about too, because you mentioned you're doing it based off of your CDP. I'm assuming you're feeding in like all of the data you have about each prospect or each customer into that CDP in terms of what websites they visited, getting an idea of their journey, how you go about attributing sales to spend.
Yeah. I'm cautious with this question because it might be a little bit of a secret sauce thing, but I'll just start with the fact that I think Google is the one that I trust the most just because it's direct. You put data in front of any person that's in control of money and you say, Facebook says we made $2 million and Google Analytics said we made 1,000. You can tell them view through, you can tell them 7-day, 28-day. No one cares because at the end of the day, it's are we profitable? How does advertising play a role? So this is something that I run into a lot. How do I address it? I look at other metrics and KPIs besides return on ad spend, and I get outside of the ad networks. What I look at is page depth, time spent on page, what percent of people are returning versus new in GA4, and I will use UTM parameters to essentially break down content to as prescriptive as I possibly can. So campaign name, ad set name, ad name, placement, audience, all of that is firing into our analytics on the back end. And I'll focus more on like, how are we qualifying the traffic in the funnel through this, right? And I'll just share one more thing. You guys use like Tableau or Data Studio. You can do all that, right? And if your naming conventions, like your taxonomy is congruent, you can actually make a blended table in GDS or Looker, I think they're finding now. But you have all the information from your advertising network, and on the back end, you can parse the analytics data on top of it, weight it, get a score as far as a quality score. So what Meta is reporting, what Snapchat is reporting, what TikTok is reporting, what you're seeing in GA or whatever tool you use. And then you can score that creative based on the parameters you set. Then if you like, once you have that information and you understand the brand, you can start setting up rules within your advertising platform to toggle things on or off as they're succeeding or not. So yeah, to answer your question succinctly, it's a blend of the data that you get from ad networks, which is, to their point, admittedly, I forget what the term is, but they're basically guessing to a degree because they don't have total visibility. And then you use stuff like GA, which is a little bit more direct on conversion data. But yeah, I'll generally look at the amount of time there's, because you're sending people directly to a product page, right? So you're looking at the amount of time users are spending on the page. That alone will qualify someone a bazillion times more than a low CPC. Just because your creative looks cool and it got someone to the website, if people are bouncing after 1 second, no one gives an interest. But if they're spending 2 minutes on the site and you've got creative and you find that one piece of creative where they're going 3 steps into the funnel, they're spending 2 minutes on the website, I would put that above any CPC, CTR, any of that stuff. So that's really how we do it.
That's really interesting. So yeah, you're de-averaging and a lot of the results, and you're looking at all of the different data sources and trying to make sense of where is the quality traffic coming from, and you're optimizing on that.
When it comes like, especially like top of funnel, right? Yeah, that's it. And it's working. I think I've been in the trenches for the past couple of years. I feel like a lot of people really rested on their loins when it came to the Pixel. And when iOS 14 happened, I knew at the time because I was running my own agency, and all of a sudden I had 8 clients where the CPA tripled and there weren't sales being logged on the back end. And they're like, Jeff, what did you do? I'm like, Apple did this. And I completely redid the way I approach marketing is completely different now. I know programmatic hasn't been impacted as much if you're focusing more on CTR, CPC, but for a while, Facebook, Meta, these social networks were a really cool place to build a small business. Like, I launched a t-shirt dropshipping store when I was like 25. And I didn't make money on it. I broke even, but it was something I just did watching YouTube tutorials on how to do this. That stuff is out the window now. The idea of retargeting someone on website data to show them the creative they just looked at, it's not possible. So yeah, it's an interesting time. It's exciting though, because I think there's a lot of cool new opportunities popping up across these different channels.
I'm curious about how you see marketing for music festivals evolving in the future. Do you think we'll be using any new tactics? What do you think are going to be some changes to how you're doing marketing in, let's say, 5-10 years from now?
Yeah, I still think that the kind of snap moments, like of a lineup or an announcement or the addition of a stage or something, is always going to be your biggest opportunity to sell tickets, no matter what. I think will change, and I look at TikTok for this. I look at TikTok on the UGC side. On the UGC marketplace, it's like one of the fastest ways that people are buying products. I have a lot of Gen Z friends. They're buying different things from TikTok that are being recommended to them with organic content from influencers. So, what I think is going to happen is because Gen Z is over the produced content trend. I work with a ton of them. All of them just want real, authentic stuff that does not feel like it was produced in a room with someone behind a computer editing a video for 10 hours. They want shit on selfie style with a girl or a guy talking to them about something that they understand, and then they'll buy it. So I think while the traditional digital marketing effort will stay the same, I do think that user generated content that's algorithm driven will take the front seat. It might be tickets, it might be specific fanny packs or clothes or something that you can bring to the show. That will end up happening, I believe. And we have a very strong organic influencer network that we work with. When they do everything from getting ready tips to what playlists to listen to when you're sitting in traffic, like the whole scope of the experience they're posting about. So I think that would be my main thing in the next 5 years. I really think that the personalization of content will need to go up to support these larger marketing efforts.
Interesting. And would you say that those videos that are going to be personal, do you think that would be the influencer making those videos or the musician making those videos? Who would be more effective?
You said 5 to 10 years, right? Yeah, it's going to be a robot. None of us are going to be creating anything. For real, though, we have one client that we're working with where my partners I work with are just like nerds about AI. They love it. We use it for everything from meetings to strategy. They're working on training models. For $50 a month, we created 10 different ad creative with avatars that look extremely real. The intonation is off a little bit. Like I could tell, but we showed it to the partners that own the brand. They had no idea. They thought it was real. So yeah, in 5 to 10 years, like I anticipate that AI will tell us what the best way to do all of this is based on everything it knows. It's like digital God. Yeah, it's very exciting. And I think at the end of the day with the AI thing, it's are you the type of person that is inclined to create and inclined to be resourceful to push boundaries. I mean, everyone that's, and maybe, sorry, this might be rude, but if there's something as interesting as artificial intelligence that's available, don't be the last one to start using it. You know, like definitely be ahead of the trend with this one. The velocity of which it grows and becomes more sophisticated is crazy. So I'm very excited. It's been a rocket ship on our agency. When I was before like ChatGPT and all this stuff started really percolating, I think we had about 6 clients. Now we have 18, and AI is like the rocket ship on our backpack. I have 4 full-time staff and 2 partner companies that I work with on an ad hoc basis. We train models on every client. We train them on the websites. We train them on interviews. We train them on blog posts. We train them on products that are available. And then we use it for a lot of strategic thinking. We don't let it dictate the answers for everything, but we have it present multiple options based on what it knows. It's like having a really intelligent friend to ask them what their perspective is, and then you make your own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So have you noticed if the effectiveness is the same with an AI generated content or influencer versus a real person? Do you think it's just like it's a perfect substitute, or is there a loss?
No, I mean, it depends. Like, it's definitely not perfect. You should still have humans reviewing the content. But when it comes to ideation to create, it smokes anyone. You get done in 30 seconds. You get feedback, you get a video file, maybe you have a human edit it and add that personalization you're looking for. But yeah, I don't see it as a complete one-stop shop for replacing the work that humans do. I think it's more about cutting back on the amount of wasted resource time on the ideation stage. If you can create a visual asset with, let's say like a client gives you a brand Bible that has 3 different fonts and 20 different color schemes and some pictures as a mood board. You can train an AI and say, hey, make 30 ad creatives or make 30 key art for this new brand. You take those 30, you give it to the EP and you tell them which one you like, and then you hire a person to create it. Versus having someone put together 5 to 10 options. It's like they spin their wheels, you waste money, and the creative gets their feelings hurt because they don't like their art. I see it as just a huge efficiency in the market. And I think, at least for now, always work with people, but just your eyes peeled. There's some really cool stuff that's being developed.
What about AI in music? Do you think that's going to be used?
That one's more scary to me. I'm not currently like a musician. I don't try to make money being a musician. I pray for those who do. It's extremely challenging. It's very hard to make money just producing music by itself. Yeah, I think we have a real problem there. When you listen to a song that's created by a guy in a Ghostwriter 101 and he's got a Drake and the Weeknd song pop up and go viral, I'm not worried for the labels. It's the opposite. I think once labels realize they can just create shit and sell it and make money without humans being involved, that's a big concern. That screws the creator over a lot more. That one's a tough pill to swallow because artists and creatives are already dealing with so much. I have a lot of friends that produce music. They have to create social media content. They have to do marketing. They're doing design. That's the hardest entrepreneur. You're doing like 15 things and you're creating art and hoping people like it. AI and music, mixed bag for me, man. Unfortunately, usually power corrupts once money is involved, and a lot of labels are probably going to start leveraging technology instead of humans.
Yeah. Could you ever see like a robot, like a Tesla bot DJing at a EDM festival?
100%. It's already happening. So it's Miko, Japanese singer, and she's blowing up. Japanese anime singer, pop star. Hatsune Miku. So look this up. Hatsune Miku is a computer program that's been around for 10 years that writes pop music. And they sell out shows. She just played at Coachella. She's a hologram. And it's a computer code that writes her music. And it's pop music. And they have a band that plays with her, but it's not a real person that sings. It's this hologram like the Gorillas. And they sell out shows. They'll move 25,000 tickets to watch a hologram dance on stage. Hatsune Miku, yeah, it's a big thing. So yeah,
Wow.
totally. And I don't want to be all gloom and doom. There's probably going to be an incredible revolution of art that happens. Some of the AI generated art on Instagram, it's amazing. But if we didn't have to worry about corporate interests and greed and money, I would say AI is the best thing that's ever happened to us. But because of the fact we're dealing with a vulnerable group of people who are artists, which is literally the most innocent, authentic thing you can create and the hardest to make money on, unfortunately, it's a bit of a predatory environment. I know there's a lot of labels that are trying to do better, but Gwyn and several others that are working to find a more economical and fair playing ground for artists, but it's hard, dude. 14 million streams, you make 50 grand on Spotify. You know how hard you have to work to make 14 million streams? Like, it's extremely challenging. So the other thing, just the last thing I'll say on AI is like, perhaps it will help unearth more opportunities for how to make money creatively. There was a big bump with the NFTs and using the blockchain to drive more revenue to artists. That was amazing. It was a bit of a bubble. A lot of people laundered money. Now it's like, why'd I pay $1 million for a monkey picture? But we'll see what happens.
How has streaming music like Spotify and so forth, how's that changed live event attendance? Do you think it's increased it?
Yeah, for sure. The distribution of art. When I was a kid, I would go to Strawberries or Newberry Comics and buy CDs, right? It wasn't very accessible. And now with streaming, it's incredible. You have all this music at the drop of a hat, 100,000 new songs released every day.
Wow.
An opportunity for people to distribute their art, and it removes some of the walled gardens. Like, labels are becoming less and less important. You're able to create your own brand, promote it, produce it. And when a label comes in, it's like hiring an agency to take your in-house skills to the next level, right? How has it impacted touring? It's twofold. So the first thing is like, the future is bright for touring and ticket sales with streaming platforms. The amount of data that Apple Music or Spotify has is incredible, and they haven't even started to leverage it yet. So I think they have close to 1,500 attributes that every profile has. We noticed you do it at the gym. We noticed that you do it on your way to work and on your drive home. there is so much data there, and Spotify in particular could be the most powerful marketing engine for live shows ever because of the amount of contextual data that they have in the walled garden they've created. When you look at one of these larger entertainment companies and the way that they do advertising and targeting, you have past purchaser data, and maybe you're able to target people on social media, but it means a lot more than just being a fan of Lady Gaga, knowing that you listen to Telephone 10 times a day when you're on the way to work, or you listen to any of her music. Right now, I think when it comes to talent buying, there's a lot of platforms that weight this Chartmetric. There's a lot of great tools for synergizing all of the data you can get from streaming, social, YouTube, all of that, and creating that calculated score of where an artist sits on the totem pole of performers. But at the moment, it's hard to cut through the noise. The real number for how to qualify an act for ticket sales is by engagement based on geography. So, how many fans does Taylor Swift have in Nashville that are actively engaging with her in the past 14 days, 30 days, 90 days, 180 days? That's really like a sign of how to place bets on talent budgets, on how to market to fan bases versus streaming, because unfortunately there's still, and Spotify and all these platforms, if they find out you're doing it, you're screwed. But a lot of these platforms, people game their listening. They syndicate the music, they have bot farms, they have click farms, and Spotify, if they catch you doing it, they'll shut you down immediately. But there are people that inflate their metrics, so it's a risky bet placing talent dollars on streaming behavior alone because it's not always accurate.
Makes sense. I can't help thinking about the parallels between the streaming music industry and the streaming video industry. It's probably really similar in the sense that you know what people are interested in, the context of around which they're consuming that content, and you can learn a lot about people. And I don't think that's developed a lot either. I think there's so much data in our consumption of content that is untapped. And I think the most used content that's measured and leveraged is social media content. I think we have a good handle on that, and maybe website content, articles, and so forth. Music and video is still in its infancy in terms of being used for just different business targeting, or I guess different business use cases. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And I think one of the coolest things to me about video is the ability to reach multiple people in the same household backed off an IP address. So like one of our strategies in general for connected TV or programmatic is how do we infiltrate the communities, right? Because, you know, if you're, let's say you're dealing with UCLA and you're placing a programmatic buy on connected TV or streaming for the specific geo, you might be placing ads in one house, but you've got 8 devices connecting to that Wi-Fi. And then if you can spark conversation, you got a guy that texts 8 of their friends and says, hey, come to this show tonight. Now you can syndicate content into a household where there's individuals who are connected and they're all seeing the same thing. Dude, I saw this ad for a YouTube ad or a DirecTV ad on this Halloween event. It looks awesome. Oh yeah, I saw that too. I've seen like 7 of their ads in the past week. The frequency cap must be out of control. So that's definitely a really cool thing. And the other thing that I love about video advertising, and I didn't really crack the code until recently with conversions, is just like, it's such a great campaign strategy, even for remarketing on the cookie front, on the first party data front. Because if you think about the difference between like me sitting on Instagram scrolling versus 15-second, 30-second unskippable ad unit, when someone is sitting, they're focused on the TV, they're not on their phone. It's a different mind state. It's a different level of connected. And yeah, someone's not going to buy a ticket necessarily right away, but if you open up a 90-day attribution window and you're like, oh shit, we sold a few thousand tickets based on this pre-roll ad, and if you set it up correctly, it's extremely cost efficient. Like, we're doing a festival in Bali right now where Bali is cheap, but I'm getting views for 50 cents and the return on ad spend is like 12x on a video campaign, which is wild to me. But I just realized that like People use video for a lot of different things. They use it to watch their favorite shows with their friends. They use it to listen to music. It's the biggest consumption engine of music. I think more people use YouTube for listening to music than other platforms. Diversifying your media mix and being mindful of what TV advertising is versus them sitting on social. Like, you have more creative liberty when it comes to pre-roll and video content than social media. Social media, you got about 3 seconds or someone's gone, right? Whereas with video, you can be a bit more thoughtful about the way that you're delivering content to the users.
Yeah, it's a deeper connection with the user versus a quick ad. You just have more time, and it's more engaging.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it plays a big role in our media mix now. Like, no matter what, we're doing video advertising for our first-party data, any of the signals that we've tracked through IP address, we're downstreaming through the CDP directly into different programmatic departments. And at a minimum, I would recommend using TV for website traffic, like retargeting people that visit your website. That's one of the places where we haven't been kneecapped as much. We will be, once the cookie goes away a little bit, but it used to be a bit of an afterthought. And like also the developments with Google in specific, not a lot of people do this, but you're able to whitelist different YouTube accounts and garner access to their data for prolific channels where whether I'm watching an ad for cat litter or watching content related to where to travel in Bali, I can start seeing pre-roll ads for something I've engaged with in the past, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, so you mentioned the cookie a few times. How do you see the cookie-less future playing out? Do you think it'll be replaced with something else, or do you think it's going away?
I think if you look at the model that I just went to their conference, it is probably the largest data capture. They basically have an ID that they create. Once you pass into that environment, there's a lot of downstreaming capabilities. It's a big company. The business model for them, like they're on like all the major publications. Their work, the first party data is definitely like the answer. And so like you look at a lot of these gated communities where you get like the New York Times that says you can read this article if you provide your email address in it. There's a lot of platforms that are doing that, and they're actively selling that programmatically for targeting certain behaviors. So in the cookieless future, I just think first party data is going to be king. And it's one of those things where it's not backdoor. People know that it's going on. If you actively provide your information to a platform and they're upfront about the fact that it's going to be used for advertising, I do think that's probably the future. Like, our strongest campaigns are usually backed on first party data. Attribution is cleaner. You have more platforms that you can target the same message on. But yeah, that's where my head is at with the cookie thing. The cool thing about the ecosystem of advertising is the moment regulations get put in place, you've got hundreds of different companies trying to beat it. Staying on top of the different platforms that you can use to get around the regulations in a legal way, that's my take on it. And luckily, it's like old school e-commerce too. If you're a restaurant that wants to bring in more visitors, you offer like a 10-person dinner, you garner a couple thousand emails. One of them wins, but everyone gets an email saying, hey, you get 20% off your next bill here at the restaurant with this coupon code. Doing things with compliance, using first-party data, tuning that data to some type of identifier that can be fired in the JavaScript on the website to track behavior in a compliant way is probably the mousetrap that I think is going to help bridge the gap here. Any company that has where you have local storage and you can fire an ID into the JavaScript and resolve the identity and then use it for different marketing efforts, it works well for us.
Yeah, I almost feel like the cookie was free, right? Like you got to who somebody is or what they've been up to. And I feel like this is a move, Ties, to further monetize a person's traffic history. Like now we can still share what the person has been up to, but you have to pay for it. The company owns that data and they're selling it versus picking it up for free. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
It's almost like maybe that's what the lobbyists were after. And maybe they were like the big conglomerates that were like, people are getting all this data for free. What if we made it illegal? to share that data for free, but you could sell your own data to us, like all the individual companies could sell their data to the big conglomerates, and then they could sell it as a package of, hey, here's all the data that previously you could get for free.
Yeah. Oh, agreed.
Big picture. It's interesting.
It is.
I'd never thought about that before.
Yeah. It's killing me. I wish I knew the name of this company. They're huge. I just can't remember it off the top
Axiom?
of my head. It's similar to Axiom. So we use Axiom for enrichment. It might come to me during our conversation. If it does, I'll shout it out. But yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, we lean heavy into any type of first party data capture. With festivals, we have the benefit of having major marketing beats where you can save money for something that people want to purchase if they give up first party data, first name, last name, email address, phone number. So that's definitely where we see it going. And like the emergence of SMS marketing, if you're not doing SMS marketing, I'd highly recommend it. We see a conversion rate that is extremely competitive with email, with basically like a quarter of the volume. Just on a baseline, you're looking at like the open rates of 90% on SMS versus 10 to 30% on email. Click-through rates are through the roof. And then as far as like conversion data, it's also very compelling. The companies that do it really well, they develop a brand identity with their users, so it's not spam, but it's fun. And you feel like when you do it really well, you feel like you're getting a text from a friend. That's definitely something to pay attention to.
That's interesting. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. Email has a really strong incremental effect where you can drive people not necessarily to close from that email, but you're driving awareness and you're able to reach somebody several times when it's relatively low cost. So it makes sense that SMS would have a similar effect, even better, in fact, in some cases.
The company is called LiveRamp. Their whole model is like identity resolution through email capture, and then they will monetize that data across in a programmatic marketplace. I think they're working on social as well.
Oh, so they're actually brokering that data.
I believe so. If they're not doing it directly, I believe with Audigent, which is like a music industry platform that you can purchase fan data in a compliant way based on certain attributes. Let me see. Audigent, Ramp. I'm not sure if they have a partnership set up, but Audigent is, oh wait, yeah, they do. Yeah. There's a LiveRamp Audigent ecosystem. So Audigent is like audience banking across the biggest brands. Like I believe there's like Live Nation bands in town. So they're banking all of this customer data. And then through LiveRamp, they're able to deploy that customer data with a ramp ID, which includes all the parameters of PII that you usually couldn't get access to, but it's anonymized, so it's hashed, just like any other data transfer. And then you can leverage it for different properties. And I really think it's going to be a powerful way to connect with your fan bases. Once Audigent gets to the place where they're able to do social sharing, which I don't think they can do yet. They have a PMP, first party data platform, so you can host your own data in there, but I don't think they're doing social yet. It's like, I think one of the biggest opportunities is looking outside of programmatic and focusing more on how can you share data in a compliant way between entities on social, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, because there is like incredibly sophisticated contextual data layers that you can use with the bands in town or Spotify. What fans click tickets to go to what shows. It's not just a pool of emails that you're tapping into or phone numbers. You actually have that extra layer of, I know that this fan clicked this artist and wants to go to this show in this market. And we have the data to be able to help you leverage with your marketing efforts on the digital side.
There's such an interesting data ecosystem around marketing and how it keeps adapting, even through all the regulation. There will always be a way. So that's super interesting.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much, Jeff. This has been such an interesting conversation. It's such a unique conversation, too. We've never talked about this industry, and you're really owning it. It's really amazing to hear about your success, and I want to thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Alex. Much appreciated. Looking forward to developing our relationship moving forward, too.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you soon.